All right, I didn't mean to be gone for so long. I wanted to document this all the way through, but I'm so disorganized, and with the chemo and all that, it's pretty hard to put it all together. So I'm just gonna rehash what I've been through. So I think I last left off after having the first 2 doses of chemo. Handled all of that pretty well, but the second day after the second day of chemo, I hit a pretty hard wall, got pretty fatigued. Everybody kind of felt the same way. But then we had like a week stint where I had nothing but just time in the apartment, filgrastim shots twice a day, every day. No real bone pain till towards the end. I did start experiencing that pain, but it was only the last day. And then right after that, I was sent in to get one more round of chemo and then put my neck catheter in, which all that was pretty... Before I get it put out, I got it in, I'm gonna have to look at the date to see when it was, but it's been a few days. Pretty uncomfortable the first night. It didn't hurt to get because they put you to sleep, you wake up with it, and then you're pretty groggy and not sure about how you feel about it. But then the first night I almost had no sleep because I was paranoid to turn my head. You know, I didn't know how to put it on my pillow, and I was afraid because I'm a pretty active sleeper. I thought maybe I'd scratch something, but you do get used to it. It took about 3 days for me to start, you know, being pretty comfortable with it. But and then straight to chemo. That round of chemo, all hell broke loose. Montezuma had his revenge, and I spent the whole time in the restroom. Luckily, the chemo room had its own bathroom, so I had the freedom to be there. But it was a pretty rough day. That was the only time the chemo hit me like that, and they got me some medication sent to the apartment by the time I got home, and that cleared up. So, but that was probably the roughest day that I handled chemo, other than ultra fatigue in and out. I made it through the stem cell harvesting, which is amazing because I got problems from MS where I got to pee every 5 seconds, and I hooked to that machine for 4 hours, and I took precautions, but it never needed to be had. So somehow, by the miracle of life, I made it through that and got my stem cell harvested, and that's when then I went to the chemo, and that's when Montezuma got his revenge on me. So on the filgrastim, I didn't really have much, but the last day I did it, and I took him like 2 shots a day for, I want to say, a week, and all was pretty good. And then the last day, before I got my stem cell harvest, I did start to get that bone pain. Probably woke up at about 3 in the morning and was very uncomfortable and pacing back and forth in the living room, and it was getting pretty intense. So I called Dr. Elias, and he basically had me tap into the box over there of medicines that you need to talk to him before you take, and instructed me to take a tramadol. And I'd say it lasted for about, the pain lasted longer than a half hour, but the pacing, crazy pain only lasted about a half hour. Then it probably, within an hour, it all went away, and I didn't experience any pain like that. So the filgrastim was, fairly uneventful. So after all that, Montezuma took his revenge on me, and then I had to come back the next day for the return of the stem cells, which, by the way, was pretty easy. It was only a 45-minute. I was afraid that I'd have to have another apheresis machine thing where I couldn't move for a long time, but really I was hooked to the same chemo room, could use the bathroom, had about a 45-minute return, and I wouldn't say I felt better instantly, but I'll say that when I got unhooked from that machine and I came out into the lobby that I'd been wheelchaired in since I've been here, I couldn't exist. It was so hot, and my heat intolerance was crazy, and I was kind of looking around like a childlike wonderment, just observing that I had no heat exhaustion, and the heat didn't bother me at all. I was looking up, and there was like a tall ceiling, and it's a real problem of mine with MS where I get super dizzy trying to tilt my head up, and I was just looking up at the ceiling, then staring down at the ground, and nothing was making me dizzy. For the first time since I've been here, I walked from the infusion room myself, with a cane of course. I walked all the way back to the transport vehicle and took a ride in the transport vehicle. Wasn't dying. I was usually way too hot to be a functioning human in the transport vehicle, but a little more lively and able to communicate with people. Got back to the apartment, walked all the way to the elevator, went upstairs, walked back into the apartment, and then just kind of was honestly doing laps around the apartment, exploring, walking and navigating and noticing things like spots that I'd see on the ground would always, like, my eyes would drift and wander, and it was hard to tell if it was a bug crawling on the ground. Like, I'd have to put my finger right next to the thing I saw and assure myself it's not really moving, and they were never moving. It was always my eyes. But I started noticing that nothing was moving, things weren't wandering. So lots of positive improvements almost immediately after the stem cell return. So I don't want to act like everything's just all downhill from there, because I mean, I've got crazy exhaustion that comes up. Like last night, I went to bed at probably 9 o'clock and slept till 4 something, and still was kind of tired. And it's crazy because the day right after, or the day before, I mean, I was out here planning my rehabilitation from when I get back, wanted to call doctors and set things up, and was just like ready to run a marathon, and then really hit a wall the next day, and that kind of put the brakes on it. But today I kind of swung back the other way. I was pretty exhausted still, but then at the end of the day I was doing kind of walking around the apartment and stuff, so I don't want to paint a picture that it's like just super easy and you go, and the roller coaster is very real, and you're gonna have random bouts of, you know, exhaustion and feel good, and you know, you do what you can while you can, but if you overuse too much, it will definitely wipe you out, and you're really rebuilding your immune system, and your body has a lot of work to do, a lot of chemo to flush. So I don't want to paint a picture of it's all easy, but nothing that I've experienced has been worse than something I've experienced from an MS relapse.